Welcome, dear students, to our political science class of Standard 9th. Today we will discuss Chapter 4, United Nations. The United Nations is an intergovernmental organization aiming to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, achieve international cooperation, and be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations. It is the world's largest and most familiar international organization. In this chapter, we shall study its objectives, principles, structure, and role in securing peace. United Nations is an international organization which was established on October 24, 1945. The United Nations was the second multi-purpose international organization established in the 20th century that was worldwide in scope and membership. Its predecessor, the League of Nations, was created by the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 and disbanded in 1946. Headquartered in New York, the United Nations also has its regional offices in Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi. Its official languages are Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. Despite the problems encountered by the League of Nations in arbitrating conflict and ensuring international peace and security prior to World War II, the major Allied powers agreed during the war to establish a new global organization to help manage international affairs. This agreement was first articulated when US President Franklin Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill signed the Atlantic Charter in August 1941. The name United Nations was originally used to denote the countries allied against Germany, Italy, and Japan. The United Nations, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union and their respective leaders, Roosevelt, Churchill, and Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin, took the lead in designing the new organization and determining its decision-making structure and functions. The United States, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, that is former USSR, along with some other states, held several meetings and planned to establish an organization for preserving peace and promoting social, economic, and political cooperation among all nations. As a result of their efforts, the United Nations organization came into existence in 1945 when the representatives of 51 nations signed the Charter of the UNO at San Francisco. The name United Nations was suggested by US President Franklin Roosevelt. India had not achieved its independence by then, and yet it became one of the founder members of the United Nations. The UN Charter was unanimously adopted and signed on June 26 and promulgated on October 24, 1945. The United Nations organizations was designed to save the future generations from the scourge of war by promoting international peace and security. All nations pledged themselves to the UN Charter. Since then, every year, 24th October is celebrated as the United Nations Day. The purpose or objectives of the United Nations are defined in Article 1 of the UN Charter. These are to maintain international peace and security and to take adequate steps to avert wars, to develop friendly relations among nations on the basis of equality, to achieve international cooperation in solving international problems of an economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character, to safeguard and foster human rights and freedom. The principles are the means to achieve the objectives of the UN. These are: all the member states are equal. The member states shall fulfill their obligations to the UN honestly. The member states shall settle their international disputes by peaceful means. The member states shall give to the UN every assistance in any action it takes in accordance with the UN Charter. The states which are not members of the UN should also act in accordance with these principles for the maintenance of international peace and security. No member state shall interfere in the internal affairs of any other state. Due to its unique international character and the powers vested in its founding charter, the organization can take action on a wide range of issues and provide a forum for its 193 member states to express their views through its 6 main organs. They are the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, International Court of Justice, and the Secretariat. General Assembly, the only body in which all UN members are represented. The General Assembly exercises deliberative, supervisory, financial, and elective functions relating to any matter within the scope of the UN Charter. Its primary role, however, is to discuss issues and make recommendations, though it has no power to enforce its resolutions or to compel state action. Other functions include admitting new members, selecting members of the Economic and Social Councils, the non-permanent members of the Security Council and the Trusteeship Council, supervising the activities of the other UN organs from which the Assembly receives reports, and participating in the election of judges to the International Court of Justice and the selection of the Secretary General. Decisions usually are reached by a simple majority vote. The Assembly convenes annually and in special sessions, electing a new president each year from among 5 regional groups of states. At the beginning of each regular session, the Assembly also holds a general debate in which all members may participate and raise any issue of international concern. The General Assembly has debated issues that the other organs of the United Nations have either overlooked or avoided, including decolonization, the independence of Namibia, apartheid in South Africa, terrorism, and the AIDS epidemic. The UN Charter assigns to the Security Council primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security. The Security Council originally consisted of 11 members, 5 permanent and 6 non-permanent, elected by the General Assembly for 2-year terms. As membership increased, however, this practice ran into difficulty. An amendment to the UN Charter in 1965 increased the Council's membership to 15, including the original 5 permanent members plus 10 non-permanent members. Among the permanent members are America, Russia, England, France, and China. The non-permanent members are chosen to achieve equitable regional representation. 5 members coming from Africa or Asia, 1 from Eastern Europe, 2 from Latin America, and 2 from Western Europe or other areas. 5 of the 10 non-permanent members are elected each year by the General Assembly for 2-year terms, and 5 retire each year. The presidency is held by each member in rotation for a period of 1 month. Each Security Council member is entitled to 1 vote. Substantive matters such as the investigation of a dispute or the application of sanctions also require 9 affirmative votes, including those of the 5 permanent members holding veto power. Because of the Security Council is required to function continuously, each member is represented at all times at the UN's headquarters in New York City. Any country, even if it is not a member of the UN, may bring a dispute to which it is a party to the attention of the Security Council. When there is a complaint, the Council first explores the possibility of a peaceful resolution. International peacekeeping forces may be authorized to keep warring parties apart pending further negotiations. If the Council finds that there is a real threat to the peace, a breach of the peace, or an act of aggression, it may call upon UN members to apply diplomatic or economic sanctions. If these methods prove inadequate, the UN Charter allows the Security Council to take military action against the offending country. Designed to be the UN's main venue for the discussion of international economic and social issues, the Economic and Social Council directs and coordinates the economic, social, humanitarian and cultural activities of the UN and its specialized agencies. Most of its work is performed in functional commissions on topics such as human rights, narcotics, population, social development, statistics, the status of women, and science and technology. Originally, it consisted of representatives from 18 countries, but the Charter was amended in 1965 and in 1974 to increase the number of members to 54. The Trusteeship Council was designed to supervise the government of trust territories to lead them to self-government or independence. The trusteeship system was established on the premise that colonial territories taken from countries defeated in war should not be annexed by the victorious powers but should be administered by a trust country under international supervision until their future status was determined. With the independence of Palau, the last remaining trust territory in 1994, the Council terminated its operations. No longer required to meet annually, the Council may meet on the decision of its President or on a request by a majority of its members. Since 1994, new rules for the Council have been proposed, including administering the global commons and serving as a forum for minority and indigenous peoples. The International Court of Justice, sometimes known as the World Court, is one of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations. It settles disputes between states in accordance with international law and gives advisory opinions on international legal issues. The 15 judges of the court are elected by the General Assembly and the Security Council, voting independently. No 2 judges may be nationals of the same state, and the judges are to represent a cross-section of the major legal systems of the world. Judges serve 9-year terms and are eligible for re-election. The seat of the World Court or International Court of Justice is The Hague. The Secretary General, the principal administrative officer of the United Nations, is elected for a 5-year renewable term by a two-thirds vote of the General Assembly and by the recommendation of the Security Council and the approval of its permanent members. The Secretary General serves as the Chief Administrative Officer at all meetings and carries out any functions that those organs entrust to the Secretariat. He oversees the preparation of the UN's budget. The Secretary General has important political functions, being charged with bringing before the organization any matter that threatens international peace and security. On 1st February 1946, Trygve, Norwegian statesman, was elected as the first Secretary General of the United States. Antonio Guterres, the ninth Secretary General of the United Nations, took office on 1st January 2017. Guterres is the first former head of government to become Secretary General and the first Secretary General born after the establishment of the United Nations. He was Prime Minister of Portugal from 1995 to 2002. Apart from these six major organs, there are many affiliated organizations of the United Nations that help it in its functions. They are called specialized agencies. Working in specific areas, they help different nations in those areas. The following are some of these important agencies. International Labour Organization. The goal of the International Labour Organization is to advance social and economic justice by setting international labour standards. The standards upheld by the International Labour Organization are broadly intended to ensure accessible, productive and sustainable work worldwide in conditions of freedom, equity, security and dignity. Food and Agriculture Organization. It is a specialized agency of the United Nations that leads international efforts to defeat hunger. World Health Organization. It is the directing and coordinating authority for health within the United Nations system. It is responsible for providing leadership on global health matters, shaping the health research agenda, setting norms and standards, articulating evidence-based policy options, providing technical support to countries and monitoring and assessing health trends. World Bank. The World Bank focuses on poverty reduction and the improvement of living standards worldwide by providing low-interest loans, interest-free credits, and grants to the developing countries for education, health, infrastructure, and communications, among other things. International Monetary Fund is founded to secure international monetary cooperation, to stabilize currency exchange rates, and to expand international liquidity. It claims to be working to foster global monetary cooperation, secure financial stability, facilitate international trade, promote high employment and sustainable economic growth, and reduce poverty around the world. United Nations Children's Fund, that is UNICEF, is a driving force that helps build a world where the rights of every child are realized. UNICEF believes that nurturing and caring for children are the cornerstones of human progress. UNICEF was created with this purpose in mind, to work with others to overcome the obstacles that poverty, violence, disease, and discrimination place in a child's path. United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. The main functions of UNESCO are to ensure that every child has access to a proper education, promoting cultural acceptance between nations while protecting historical sites, improving technology to aid in the distribution of resources and energy, and secure the safety of individual expression and basic human rights. The United Nations Millennium Development Goals are 8 goals that UN member states have agreed to achieve by the year 2015. The United Nations Millennium Declaration, signed in September 2000, commits world leaders to combat poverty, hunger, disease, illiteracy, environmental degradation, and discrimination against women. The United Nations peacekeeping forces are employed by the World Organization to maintain or re-establish peace in an area of armed conflict. The UN acts as an impartial third party in order to prepare the ground for a settlement of the issues that have provoked armed conflict. If it proves impossible to achieve a peaceful settlement, the presence of the UN forces may contribute to reducing the level of conflict. With India being a rising power in the international community, one of the hallmarks of its soft power is its steadfast engagement with multilateral international institutions, particularly the United Nations. India is a founding member of the UN and it signed the Declaration of United Nations in Washington, D.C. on 1st January 1942 before its independence from the British Empire. India has served as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council for 7 terms, a total of 14 years, and is an active participant in all the UN specialized agencies and organizations. In particular, the evolution of India's active role in multilateral negotiations on trade, climate change, and development policy has been the subject of much attention. So, dear students, today we have discussed in length about United Nations. That's all for this class. Thanks for watching.